The moment she touched his hand, time seemed to stop. For months of neighborly small talk had somehow led to this. David standing in his doorway at 2 a.m., still in his wrinkled work clothes, holding his feverish 6-year-old daughter while Emma, still in her hospital scrubs, gently pressed a cool palm to Lily's forehead. "You should have called me sooner," she whispered, her eyes meeting his with understanding rather than judgment. It was the first time in 3 years since losing his wife that David allowed himself to accept help, and it wouldn't be the last. Before we continue this journey of healing, connection, and unexpected second chances, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us bring more heartfelt stories like David and Emma's to life. Now, let's return to that fateful night that changed everything for a broken family and the compassionate nurse next door. David Collins hadn't planned on raising Lily alone. At 34, he had imagined a different life, one where Sarah hadn't driven home in that rainstorm, where cancer hadn't stolen his mother the same year, where he wasn't drowning in grief while trying to keep his architectural firm afloat and be both parents to a child who still sometimes cried for her mommy at night. Their apartment in the city had too many memories, so when a project came up in the suburbs, David jumped at the chance. The modest 2-story house on Maple Street was nothing special: faded blue paint, a small yard perfect for a swing set, and quiet neighbors who mostly kept to themselves. That was 3 months ago, and David had barely unpacked the essentials. Cardboard boxes still lined the hallway, and family photos remained wrapped in newspaper, tucked away in the closet because he couldn't bear to hang them. Emma Chen had noticed the moving truck from her kitchen window. As an ER nurse working night shifts, she was usually sleeping when most neighbors were active, but something about the tired man trying to carry boxes while a small girl with pigtails trailed behind him caught her attention. She'd brought over banana bread the next day, a welcome tradition, she'd said with a smile that reached her eyes, but kept the interaction brief when she noticed how uncomfortable he seemed with the gesture. For weeks, their relationship consisted of polite nods across their adjoining driveways. Emma would wave while leaving for her shift as David returned from work. Sometimes Lily would be with him, and Emma would marvel at how the little girl's entire face lit up when she smiled, a stark contrast to her father's perpetual expression of exhaustion. "She seems sweet," Emma had commented one evening when they happened to be checking their mailboxes at the same time. "She's everything," David had replied, his voice softening for the first time since they'd met. Then, as if catching himself showing vulnerability, he quickly added, "Have a good shift," before ushering Lily inside. Emma understood boundaries. As someone who had pieced together countless broken bodies in the ER, she recognized the invisible fractures in David's spirit. She kept her distance but remained watchful, a professional habit she couldn't shake. The night everything changed had been particularly brutal at the hospital. 3 car accidents, a heart attack, and a child with severe asthma had left Emma emotionally drained. She'd trudged up her driveway at 1:45 a.m., looking forward to a hot shower and her comfortable bed, when she noticed lights still on next door and the sound of frantic pacing through an open window. Something made her change course. Perhaps it was professional instinct or simply human concern. She approached David's door and knocked gently. When he answered, the panic in his eyes told her everything. Lily was bundled against his chest, her cheeks flushed and hair damp with sweat. "She's burning up," David said, his voice cracking. "The pediatrician's office is closed, and I don't know if this warrants an emergency room visit. She was fine at bedtime, and then an hour ago." He trailed off, looking utterly lost. "Come open the door," Emma had texted after quickly changing into fresh clothes. "I'm a nurse. Let me check on her." Now, standing in his living room with her medical bag, Emma worked with quiet efficiency. 102.8, she murmured, reading the thermometer. How long has she been like this? She woke up around midnight crying that her throat hurt. The fever started climbing fast. David paced, running his hand through his already disheveled hair. "I've given her children's Tylenol, but it doesn't seem to be helping. Should I take her to the hospital? What if it's something serious? What if?" David, Emma interrupted gently, using his name for the first time. Take a deep breath. Let me examine her first. Lily whimpered as Emma checked her throat with a penlight. Hi there, sweetheart. I know you don't feel good. Can you open your mouth wide like a lion for me? That's perfect. The little girl complied, her trusting eyes fixed on Emma's face. After a thorough examination, Emma sat back on her heels. Her throat is very red and there are white patches. I suspect strep throat. It's common in children her age and very treatable, but she'll need antibiotics. She reached for her phone. I know the overnight pediatrician at community hospital. I can call ahead if you want to take her in. You do that? David asked, disbelief evident in his voice. Of course. That's what neighbors do. Emma smiled reassuringly at Lily, who had finally stopped crying and was watching their interaction with curious eyes. And while you're getting ready, I can make some warm honey lemon water that will help soothe her throat. David hesitated only momentarily before nodding. Thank you. We don't want to impose, but I'd appreciate that. While David gathered Lily's comfort items, a stuffed rabbit with one ear and a small blanket, Emma moved around their kitchen, noting the sparse contents of the refrigerator and the general lack of personal touches. A single photo magnet on the refrigerator showed a younger, smiling David with a beautiful woman and a toddler-aged Lily. When David returned, Emma handed him a small travel mug for Lily. Small sips only. I've called ahead, Dr. Patel will see you right away. And here's my number. Text me when you know something. I don't know how to thank you, David said, genuine gratitude breaking through his usual reserve. You don't have to. Just take care of this little one. As they prepared to leave, Lily reached out unexpectedly and wrapped her small arms around Emma's legs. Thank you, nurse lady, she whispered hoarsely. Something shifted in that moment, a small but significant crack in the walls David had built around his and Lily's life. 2 hours later, Emma's phone lit up with a message, strep confirmed. Starting antibiotics tonight. She's already feeling better. We owe you dinner when she's well. David and Lily. Emma smiled in the darkness of her bedroom. No rush. Rest well, both of you. What began that night as a medical emergency evolved slowly into something neither David nor Emma had anticipated. The dinner thank you turned into pizza on David's back porch while Lily showed Emma her collection of rocks and feathers. One meal became a standing Sunday tradition, with Emma bringing homemade dumplings from her grandmother's recipe or David attempting to recreate his late wife's lasagna. Sarah was the cook in our family, he admitted one evening after Lily had gone to bed. They sat on his porch swing, the summer air heavy with the scent of nearby jasmine. I'm learning, but there are days when Lily looks at my attempts and says, Mommy's was different. Emma's heart ached for them both. Children remember. That's a gift, even when it hurts. Did you learn cooking from your family? David asked, realizing he knew little about Emma's past despite the growing comfort between them. Emma nodded, sipping her tea. My grandmother raised me after my parents died in a boating accident when I was 8. She believed food was medicine for both body and spirit. She paused, then added quietly, that's why I became a nurse, I think. To heal both. It was the first time she'd shared something so personal, and David found himself reaching for her hand without thinking. The gesture surprised them both, but neither pulled away. I'm sorry about your parents, he said sincerely. And I'm sorry if I've been distant. After Sarah died, I just couldn't. You don't have to explain, Emma assured him. Grief has its own timeline. Lily asks about you on the days you work late shifts, David confessed with a small smile. She calls you our Emma. The phrase hung between them, filled with unspoken meaning. Summer faded into fall. Emma helped Lily prepare for first grade, shopping for school supplies and teaching her to tie her shoes, a task David had been struggling with. David, in turn, fixed the leaking faucet in Emma's bathroom and installed shelves in her home office. They developed a rhythm, an unspoken partnership that filled gaps neither had acknowledged before. But beneath the surface, complications simmered. David's in-laws visited from Phoenix and were visibly uncomfortable with Emma's presence in their grandchild's life. "Sarah's only been gone 3 years," his mother-in-law remarked pointedly when Emma dropped off homework Lily had forgotten. "Some would say that's too soon." "Mom, Emma's our neighbor and friend," David had replied firmly, though the words felt inadequate for what Emma had become to them. Later that night, after his in-laws had gone to their hotel, David apologized to Emma over the phone. "They're protective of Sarah's memory. They don't understand." "And what is there to understand, David?" Emma asked softly. It was the first time she'd pushed for clarity about their relationship. The silence stretched between them before David sighed. "I don't know. I just know that when you're not here, something's missing. But I also feel guilty, like I'm betraying Sarah somehow. Sarah loved you and Lily. She wouldn't want emptiness to be your loyalty pledged to her memory." The words hit David like a physical force. That night, he finally unpacked the family photos, placing them around the living room. It was time to honor the past without living in it. October brought Lily's 7th birthday. Emma arrived early to help decorate, bringing homemade cupcakes and a special gift, a children's medical kit. "Because you're such a good helper when I check your temperature," Emma explained as Lily unwrapped it with squeals of delight. "Look, Daddy. I can be a nurse like our Emma." The party was small, a few children from Lily's class, David's colleague Mark and his wife, and the elderly couple from across the street. As Emma helped serve cake, Mark's wife cornered her in the kitchen. "It's wonderful what you've done for them," she said warmly. "I haven't seen David this animated since before Sarah's diagnosis. He talks about you at work, you know." Emma blushed. "We're just neighbors who became friends." The woman raised an eyebrow. "Honey, I've been married 30 years. What I'm seeing isn't just friendship, at least not from where he's standing." That evening, after the guests had left and Lily had fallen asleep surrounded by new toys, David and Emma cleaned up in comfortable silence. As Emma gathered her purse to leave, David stopped her. "I found something yesterday when I was looking for birthday candles." He held out a small, worn book. "It's Sarah's journal from her last months. I've never been able to read it until now." Emma waited, sensing the importance of the moment. "She wrote about her wishes for Lily, and for me." His voice caught. "She wanted us to be happy again, to find love again. She actually wrote that she hoped I'd find someone kind who would love Lily as her own." He looked up, eyes glistening. "It's like she knew what I would need before I did." Emma stepped closer, her heart pounding. "And what do you need, David?" "I need to stop being afraid. Of living, of loving, of letting people in." He took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "Specifically, I need to stop being afraid of how much I've come to care for you." When their lips met, it wasn't like the movies, there were no fireworks or swelling music. Instead, it felt like coming home after a long journey, familiar and right, despite never having happened before. Winter brought new challenges and joys. Emma's grandmother had a minor stroke, requiring her to move in temporarily while recovering. Without discussion, David and Lily began including Grandmother Chen in their Sunday dinners. "Your dumplings are improving," the elderly woman told David one evening in her accented English, patting his hand. "Still need practice, but hard is right." Lily thrived with the expanded family circle, soaking up Grandmother Chen's stories and learning simple Mandarin phrases. "We're like a family puzzle," she declared one snowy afternoon as they all built gingerbread houses. "Different pieces that fit." Emma and David exchanged glances, their relationship deepening even as they navigated its complexities. There were difficult conversations about Sarah's memory, about balancing careers with family time, about what they each wanted for the future. "I never planned to fall in love with a single father and his daughter," Emma admitted during a rare date night without Lily. "But now I can't imagine my life without you both." "Even with all my baggage?" David asked, only half joking. Emma squeezed his hand. "Your baggage is part of who you are. And who you are is who I love." Spring arrived with renewal in more ways than one. David finally repainted the house, a cheerful yellow that made Emma smile every time she pulled into the driveway. The moving boxes disappeared, replaced by new memories, photos of Lily with Emma at the Science Museum, David and Emma bundled up at a winter festival, Grandmother Chen teaching them all to make dumplings. One evening in April, nearly a year after that first night Emma had come to their door, David asked Lily a question during dinner. "Remember how we talked about families coming in different shapes?" Lily nodded, mouth full of spaghetti. "Like Maddie at school has two moms, and Jaden lives with his grandpa." "Right. And our family has been you and me for a while now." David glanced at Emma, who watched with curious eyes. "How would you feel if our family changed a little bit?" Lily considered this seriously. "Would Emma be in our family for real? Not just next door?" David smiled. "That's what I'm thinking about. Would that be okay with you? Would she live here? Would she be like my new mom?" The questions came rapidly now. Emma interjected gently. "I could never replace your mom, Lily. Your mom will always be your mom. But I could be an additional person who loves you very much. If that's something you and your dad want." Lily processed this with the straightforward logic of a 7-year-old. "So I'd have my first mom in heaven and you here? That seems fair." David laughed, the tension breaking. "Very fair." "Then yes," Lily declared decisively. "Emma should be in our family. She already is anyway." Later that evening, with Lily asleep upstairs, David led Emma to the back porch where they had spent so many evenings talking. The spring air was cool but pleasant, stars visible in the clear night sky. "That wasn't exactly how I planned to approach this," David admitted, running a hand through his hair in that nervous gesture Emma had come to find endearing. "Approach what?" Emma asked, though her quickening pulse suggested she knew. David took both her hands in his. "When Sarah died, I thought that part of my life was over. I focused entirely on Lily, on making sure she had enough love to compensate for what she'd lost. I never imagined there would be room for anyone else." He swallowed hard. "But you didn't replace anything or anyone. You created your own space in our hearts." Emma felt tears gathering as David continued. "You walked into our lives when we needed help but didn't know how to ask for it. You offered warmth without pressure, support without expectation. You loved Lily for exactly who she is, and somehow, you found a way to love me too, grief and all." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. "I'm not perfect. I'm still figuring out how to balance everything. But I know with absolute certainty that I want to face whatever comes next with you beside us." He opened the box to reveal a simple emerald ring. "It's not traditional. But then, neither are we." "It's perfect," Emma whispered, her voice catching. "And yes. 1,000 times yes." As David slipped the ring onto her finger, Emma was struck by how far they'd come from that first night, from "come open the door" to opening their hearts. Their wedding the following autumn was small but joyful. Lily served as both flower girl and best daughter, scattering rose petals and holding the rings with solemn importance. Emma's grandmother, fully recovered and beaming with pride, sat in the front row alongside a photo of Sarah, which David had insisted on including. "She's part of how we got here."